Hey, good afternoon, scholars. Happy Friday. You guys have made it to the end of the week and you are finishing so strong. Your teachers, me, Miss Jenny, Mr. Calabrese, we're so proud of the work that you guys have been knocking out the last couple days. And it's really going to set you up for success on this essay that we're slowly building. As you can see, our turn-in rate, we had 1% more than yesterday. So my push the other day was to get above 70%. You guys have done it 2 days in a row, and we're climbing. What I'm even more excited about is how long the grit list is getting. Again, if your name is on here and not highlighted, it's because you were on here the day before. You've probably been on here most days. If your name is on here and highlighted, welcome to the grit list. You weren't here yesterday. You stepped up your effort, and here you are. I fully believe that pretty soon I'm going to have 3 columns, and that's awesome. I'm really proud of the the effort, the creativity that you guys are putting into your assignment. Let's take a look at the the answers that you guys put together with Miss Jenny in office hours yesterday. You guys came up with so many different ways that this play was both a celebration of the justice system and a warning about the justice system. So let's go through and look at your answers for each of the different components of the justice system that you were to think about. So, looking at citizen juries, the idea of 12 random strangers hearing your case and deciding on your guilt or innocence. The way that it was celebrated in the play was um, that people's votes kept changing. Right, there was less room for corruption because people were talking to each other and listening to each other. The fact that 10 of the 12 jurors took this really seriously, that they came to the right decision eventually. And some people think the fact that they don't know the boy or each other is a good thing. It makes it more likely to be fair. How is this a warning about citizen juries? These guys have no experience in the legal system. They might be racist. They might not care. They might have a personal bias against the case and lots of power. And yeah, it is. It puts a lot of power in just an everyday person's. You've got someone's life in your hands. Some people, might take this to be a warning. Like, ooh, I don't know. That's a pretty big responsibility to just give to anybody. Reasonable doubt, the idea that if you're not 100% sure they did it, then you should vote not guilty. How is this celebrated? It makes sure that the right decision is made and it protects the innocent. It makes it so you have to have proof and evidence that they did it, right? You really have to prove someone's guilt. Um, it can't just be a suspicion. And how is it a warning? Well, if you're supposed to let someone go because you just have a little bit of doubt, that could lead to people who are actually guilty getting let go. I hadn't thought about that. And I think actually juror number 8, I think he did bring that up. You could tell that he was at one point in the play, the reader kind of read it, the author kind of got us into his mind, and it said like this was exactly what his fear was. Like, man, what if I am arguing for someone who killed his dad? Because they never found out who did it, right? All right, unanimity. The idea that the jury has to be all on the same side, either all 12 voting guilty or all 12 voting not guilty, or else they're a hung jury. The way this was celebrated is that no one person can sway the group. They all have to come together. And if they could have just done who a majority rules instead of having to have every single vote, then the eighth juror would have been ignored because there was only one of him. So because it had to be 100%, the eighth juror could say, hold on, let's just talk because you got to get my vote and you don't have my vote. How is this a warning? As we could see, the argument went on for a long time. It takes a long time, if ever, to get all 12 people to come to the same decision. It can lead to anger, frustration, and exhaustion, and it could lead to a hung jury. You can't argue forever, and if eventually you don't get to 100%, the jury is a hung jury, which means the court case starts all over again with a brand new jury. So that means more time spent in court, more money that's had to be spent in the courtroom. The defendant has to stay in jail for longer. The whole thing starts over again. It's really frustrating. Witness testimony. How was this celebrated? Well, the boy was able to testify, right? And in cases, there are some cases where witnesses may see the crime and be able to provide valuable evidence. How is this a warning? We don't always remember things correctly when experiencing trauma, so witness testimony might not always be correct or reliable. hmm One thing I think can be added to the idea that it's celebrated is the idea that the witnesses swear to tell the truth. If you lie, if you lie in court and it's found it's proven that you lie, you're going to jail. It's a big deal. So that could also be one that is celebrated. That's why some of the jurors were so hesitant to believe that these witnesses were lying, because they swore to tell the truth, and that's a big deal. But that also went to the proof to the case of, like, no, listen, they didn't think they were lying. They really thought they were telling the truth, but sometimes we just get it wrong. Here's some of your reflections on what you're going to argue. Joao said he's going to side with celebration because on the warning side, it shows that everything the jurors did wrong in the trial. And the celebration side shows how the juror helped the kid not get in trouble and helped not to go to jail by making smart moves and choices that would help prove the kid wasn't guilty. Camila said, I'm going to argue celebration because even though there were many challenges, like the third and 10th, they were still able to convince them. So I think this was a little like 50-50. Yes, Camila, it's not totally obvious which one this is. So Camila acknowledges, remember the other day when I was pushing you to acknowledge the counterclaim? Camila acknowledges the warning side, but she's leaning more towards a celebration because she says they ultimately got it right. So I'm going to have to go with celebration. Tiara said, I'm going to argue warning because even though the play had some really good moments, overall it was really bad. I say this because the men were always fighting. It was really chaotic, but if there was less fighting, I could maybe argue celebration. Tiara, Reginald Rose, this is what inspired him to write this play. He served on a jury that was messy, and um, he walked away feeling like you're feeling right now, like, man, that was terrible. And so then he wrote this play. So I'm not saying he wrote it as a warning, but he did see a lot of the arguing in there. That's why it was featured so heavily in 12 Angry Men. And this last one is Elvia's. She said, I'm going to argue warning. No, no. Is this Elvia's or is this Israel's? Sorry, guys, hold on. I think this is Elvia's. Wait. This is Israel's. Elvia, yours was great too, but I use your work every single day. So I'm trying to highlight some other students. Israel said, I'm going to argue warning because it is too risky to trust not only random people, but maybe even witnesses who haven't seen the case correctly, like how a witness might confuse the memory of what happened because of it being too emotional. And we can't just trust random people who were picked, because even though the judge makes sure there is no prejudice, some jurors still carry racist thoughts. So Israel's hitting us with multiple reasons why he's going to go with warning. I know that his writing is going to be really strong because he's going to prove it with multiple examples. Awesome. Overall, guys, you did a great job um, connecting not only what happened in the play, but connecting it to what we learned about a prosecutor's job in the video from the last couple days, and a lot of you, or even like Israel just did, some of the answers, multiple answers that we saw, are going back to that reading from weeks ago. The one called "You Have No Idea What Happened," that talks about the unreliability of our memories when it comes to um, those flashbulb moments, those traumatic or emotional memories. So awesome way to pull evidence from throughout the unit and mixing it all in to help inform your thinking. Today's assignment, you're going to start to put together the outline for your response to the prompt. Same prompt as yesterday, we're just going to go a little bit deeper with it. Reginald Rose's play, 12 Angry Men, depicts the complexity of the judicial system, including such things as citizen juries, unanimity, reasonable doubt, and witness testimony. Is 12 Angry Men a celebration of our judicial process or a warning of its failings? Support your answer with sufficient details from the text. Well, I want you to take that same thinking that you did on the brainstorming activity and apply it to this. Don't look at these as two totally separate assignments. The brainstorming was to get your mind going so that you can flow right into this assignment, okay? So what are you going to argue? Real quick, scholars, one thing I saw in multiple papers right here, which side are you going to argue? Some students were taking that as meaning arguing if the boy was guilty or innocent. That's not what I meant by that. Which side are you going to argue are you saying that this book was a celebration of how our courts work, or was it a warning about how our courts work? So you're doing celebration or warning, not was the boy guilty or not guilty, okay? So when it says, what's your assertion? Are you saying that this play was a warning or a celebration, and why? Okay. Today we're going to start to pick our evidence. What quotes, what quotes, or maybe even stage directions are you going to use from the play that's going to prove your point, right? So this is going to take some time because you're going to have to go back throughout different sections in the play that you want to use and find the quotes, the evidence that you want to build your response around. So here's your task today. First of all, what's your assertion going to be? What are you arguing and why? You don't have to go fully in depth, but name, celebration, or warning, and and two reasons why you're saying that. For example, Israel's going to say warning, and his two reasons are going to be you can't trust random people. He listed three reasons. So Israel's going to pick. He said you can't trust random people, witnesses get it wrong, and there are jurors who are prejudiced and racist. So Israel's going to pick his two strongest, and those are his two reasons. So he's going to say it's a warning because boom and boom. Okay? Then you're going to go back into the play and you're going to find four pieces of evidence that you think strongly show your points. All you have to do, scholars, when you find those four pieces of evidence is copy and paste them into this box and include what page number, okay? So just a quick review, just in case you need a quick refresher on how to copy and paste. We go into the book, go to the page that you want. Make sure also that you're picking quotes from throughout the play, right? Don't have all of your evidence be between like pages 8 and 10. Have a good mix of evidence from the beginning, from the middle, from the end. But a real quick copy and paste. Okay, let's say I'm going to use this line. I hope nobody uses this line. Okay, I highlight it in the PDF. You can right click and do copy. You could also hold the control button and C to copy it, and then you just go back into our Google Doc and boom, you paste it. Don't forget to add in the page number. This one was from page 14. So all you do right here, scholars, is collect the 4 quotes that you think could strongly prove your point. You don't need to do any analysis yet. Once you have all 4, copy and paste the top 4 pieces of evidence you could possibly use to prove your point. Once you have all 4, you go to the next step, which was then highlight your 2 strongest. Okay? When you have the 2 strongest that you're going to use, put them in the evidence box. So, what quote are you going to use? Now, explain, after you include the quote, explain what's that quote going to show. Do the same thing for your second quote. And that's it. Okay? So, today you're going through and finding 4 options, narrowing it down to this 2 strongest, and explaining what makes those 2 pieces of evidence strong. How are they going to help you prove your point about whether this play is a celebration or a warning? All right? Um, Office hours are getting bigger and bigger, and they're getting more jam-packed, and they're helping more and more students. There are no office hours today. It's Friday. So never mind about office hours, but you guys can do this because it's a pretty simple assignment. So really take your time on it. You've got 3 days to get it done. So take your time and slowly work on it, okay? If that means picking one quote and then walking away from your computer for a few hours, fine. Take your time. You have until Sunday night to put together this assignment. Pick your 4 strong quotes, highlight the 2 strongest, and then just explain what they're going to help you prove. All right? Have a great weekend, and let's get our turn-in rates to over 75%. All right? I know we can do it. I will see you guys on Monday.